Hi, Dr. Lisa Thompson here, and welcome to the first episode of The Doctor Is In, where I make an online house call and the Google Hangouts every Monday through Friday, where we're going to dissect how we can help you build a profitable online business. So the way these Hangouts are going to work is that I'll come on and I will be sharing with you either some tips or strategies, product demonstrations, product reviews, and interview some successful internet marketers to help you get a better perspective and get a better idea of how you can build your business better. Now, at the end of each Hangout, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you what's called a Doc's prescription, and these are going to be very simple action steps for you to follow through with. And studies have shown that if you take action right away after you learn something, your brain is going to retain it better and it's going to give you momentum to keep going. Because if you really aren't going to take action with what I'm going to tell you, it's really going to be a waste of your time to be here while I'm sharing with you this great information that I have learned over the last several years on internet marketing. So what I want you guys to do when you're listening here is really be present. You really needed to owe it to yourself to take the time to not be distracted, shut off your iPhone, shut off your television, turn off your social media, and really focus. Because if you don't, you might miss out on something really key. Now, if you haven't subscribed to my list, you're going to want to do that. And the place you can get that at is my website at www.digitalmarketingdoctor.com, 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 and you can see the link below this video. And if you subscribe, again, you'll be finding out when I have a blog post updated, and usually I update my blog on a daily basis. I do not pitch or hype in any of my emails. What I give you is good, solid information, as well as I like to take care of my subscribers by giving them wonderful free items and things from my Internet Marketing Rolodex. So every Friday, I do what's called a Friendly Friday freebie day. So you will just look for your, in your mailbox for me on that particular day, and I just go through my Rolodex online, and I will give you free, sometimes they're free webinars, sometimes they're free reports, sometimes it can be some checklists, but they are all there to serve a purpose to help you, because my desire is to see you succeed. So let's get this party started. And so what I want to do is kick off this episode on a very important concept. And this was probably one of the biggest strategies that I learned over the summer when I worked with my mentor. She really helped me understand this, and it really became like full circle for me last Thursday when I was on a training session with her. And I was so inspired and excited by what I learned that today I want to share that with you. So, and that is the power of why. So what I'm going to do right now is I made up a little PowerPoint presentation, and what we will do is I will make that PowerPoint available on my website, and then I'm also going to put it on my, I will put it in the email list too. So if you subscribe to my list, you will make sure that we'll get that to you as well. So let me hit the screen share button here, and we will go to there we go. So what we're going to talk about here is discovering your why. And the why, everyone, this is where I think a lot of online marketers, they make a mistake here. They start with, we go with the question, well, why did you start getting into a home-based business in the first place? And a lot of times you get the questions, well, I want to make more money, or I want to get out of debt, or I want to spend some time with the kids, or I want to be my own boss. I apologize there, having to step out really quickly. My adorable Cocker Spaniel Kirby wanted to come in and be at my feet, so I just wanted him to bring him in. I didn't want him pawing at my door there. So as we were saying with, starting your online business, like I said, those are kind of the standard pat answers that you see on your screen there. And when you look in the online marketing industry or the network marketing industry, the home-based business industry, those are pretty much the standard 4 reasons people get into business. And in this particular market or niche, it's very, very competitive. And so you have to carve out for yourself a reason to exist that sets you apart from the competition. And you want people to join you. So we need to go deeper into that why. And before we do that, I want to go over some very key concepts with you. People don't join companies. You really have to understand that. They join people who they know, like, and trust. And your product, company, or compensation plan is not going to set you apart from your competition. Okay? Network marketing companies come and go. Products come and go. Compensation plans change. It is you and your story. It is your why that gets people to know you, like you, and trust you. And for a lot of people, especially when we're online, we're afraid to get out of our comfort zone and share our stories. And I think one of the big reasons is we're afraid of being laughed at and rejection. I mean, it's hard enough. I remember I was in network marketing. I did my first stint back in the mid-1990s. And back then we didn't have, there wasn't the internet to market with. We had to do very old school, which was, talking to people face to face or talking with them on the phone. And for me, that was really terrifying. And I don't know a lot of people if they know this, but, I only have 50% of my hearing. And for me, talking on the telephone was just a real challenge because it's really hard when you're only relying on your auditory channel and you're not able to have that visual input from people to make sure you're hearing them correctly. And so coupled with the intense feeling of rejection, hearing the no's, 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 it can ruin your self-confidence. And, even online too, there's always that, when you're online, you can hide behind things and you don't have to worry about having rejection. And so we kind of get comfortable with that. And I'm here today because my mentor told me, you need to get out of your comfort zone. And you need to share your story. And you need to get that out there. You need to be you. And so what happens is, and this is what happened to me, after I learned this from my mentor, when you craft a compelling why, 2 big things are going to happen to you. Number 1, people are going to be drawn to you because of who you are, what you stand for. And it's also going to be giving you the gas in your tank that's going to make you take action and keep going, even when you hit those patches where, people aren't signing up to join you, or, people aren't buying your products. You're kind of going through, there's going to be some slow months when in this business and in this industry. That's another thing my mentor taught me, is that, typically summers tend to be, pretty slow months in the online marketing industry, in network marketing industries. So when you have that why, that strong why, that's going to keep you going in those lean times. So let's talk about crafting your why. And this is what you're going to do. I want you to take out a sheet of paper, or better yet, I want you to, from here on in, if you're going to be listening to my Hangouts on a consistent basis, I really want you to get a notebook. You can buy a notebook for about $1 at Walmart, or you can get them at Walgreens, and it doesn't have to be like a fancy leather-bound notebook. I just have a standard composition book from me that's 200-page wide ruled notebook, and I write in that all the time. My mentor taught me that over the summer too. But you want to handwrite this story down, how we're going to craft your why. And I suggest when you take your notes and everything, handwrite it. And I'm going to just give you a real quick reason why. When I was going through my doctoral studies program, I did a lot of reading on brain research, and we found that when you handwrite or print, whenever you're using your hand to write out anything, there is something with the way your hand is moving, whether in cursive or print, that the brain, there's certain centers in the brain that pick up on that, and you are able to retain information much better than if you do when you're typing out. When you're typing things out, you're not going to get the same effect. So you really want to write. So I highly recommend that you get a notebook. So what I want you to do is, get out your notebook or a sheet of paper, and I want you to write down the answer to this question. Why did you start an online business? Okay. So you could put down, like we said before, you wanted to make more money, or you wanted to get out of debt, spend time with your kids or family. You wanted to have money for, your retirement. You want to be your own boss. So just jot those things down first. Now we're going to get deeper. And once you have your reason, then you're going to want to answer this question. What does, and then I have a little line there, blank mean to you? And so I put some examples that you can see below on the PowerPoint that says, as an example, what does paying off, it should say your bills, not business, mean to you? What does having a retirement mean to you? What does spending more time with your family mean to you? What does being your own boss mean to you? And what I want to do right now is I'm going to share with you my why. Okay. Now, what you see up here is a picture of my dad. Now, I started with online marketing I started really dabbling in it in 2008, 2009, because at that time my husband wound up being laid off from his job, and I wound up being the sole income earner. And while I was making very good money at the job that I was at, I was just always kind of worried, because with the economy, you don't know, especially back then when the markets were really crashing, if I was gonna, if my company was gonna be around. So I was looking for ways to supplement, because in addition there too, I wound up working. I wound up working almost 7 days a week. There was one point in 2008 where in December I worked pretty much every day right up until Christmas Eve. So that was all. I worked 23 days straight. Let me tell you, if you've ever worked 23 days straight at a job, things tend to blur. The days tend to blur. I was just literally, I was like a zombie at the end of that 23-day working straight. But I had to do it because I needed to supplement the income. I needed to have that money coming in so we could pay our bills. So what I want to do is, this is a picture of my dad. He was one of the most independent men I've ever met. He loved golf. He adored his grandchildren. He loved fishing. He would love taking the kids. When the grandkids would come over to his house, he and my mom lived on a golf course, and they would pick up the stray golf balls in the backyard, and they would go and they would clean the golf balls. And my dad had a golf cart and would take the kids on golf cart rides and take them out for ice cream at the Dairy Queen. I mean, he was just a very involved grandfather, and he just, family was the world to him. Now, on April 1st, 2010, I was at work, and I received a call that nobody wanted to hear. My brother called me, and he said, you need to go to Hennepin County Medical Center, which is the largest trauma hospital in Minneapolis. Dad collapsed outside. 2 golfers found him. He wound up going into some sort of respiratory failure. You need to get down to the hospital right away. And that's all my brother knew. And so I got in my car. I was about 45 minutes away from Hennepin County, and just dropped everything I had and just sped down to the hospital. I get down there with my brother, and the doctors grabbed us. No sooner than we walked in, and they took us to one of those little tiny waiting rooms that just sit outside of the emergency room. And that's usually where they take families when the news is not good. And my brother and I were in there, and we met the neurosurgeon, and he said that my dad, when he was outside, he had broken his neck. He fell, he fainted, broke his neck. And my dad had a pre-existing condition known as ankylosing spondylitis. And what that is think of that as, you all know probably what osteoporosis is. And what ankylosing spondylitis is it's the nerves in your spinal cord, and your spinal cord itself literally becomes brittle. The nerves in there become brittle. And my dad was outside, and he was mowing the lawn, and he was using a one of the push lawnmowers that you push upright lawnmowers. And he was outside, and we think that they suspected that Dad fainted, and he fell forward, and his chin hit the handle of the push lawnmower, or the upright lawnmower, and the way he hit, and because my dad had that ankylosing spondylitis, it just literally caused the vertebra in his neck to completely shatter. And so they said, you know, we have to do surgery. They said that he will probably come out of it. He will survive the surgery, but the chances of him having any use of his extremities, not very good. We were looking at, you know, best case scenario, he would probably be a paraplegic, with just wouldn't be able to use his lower body anymore. Worst case scenario, he'll be paralyzed from the neck down. And that was just, I mean, it was like both my brother and I were just hit with a sucker punch that we didn't see coming. I mean, we never thought that this would happen. And one of the hardest things my brother and I had to do, and at the time my mom was down in Florida visiting her sister, was calling her and telling her to come home. And that was my brother's job. And she was able to get a flight up, and she arrived at Hennepin County Medical Center after midnight, about an hour and a half after my dad came out of surgery. And then, you know, we had to tell her what happened. One of the hardest things we ever had to do. I mean, I can't tell you how hard that was. And we were looking at a new type of normal. You know, the thoughts that we were looking at, you know, obviously, you know, Mom and Dad had this really nice, you know, house on the golf course. That was their dream house. It had stairs. You know, will my mom and dad have to live in that house? Obviously, you know, a quadriplegic won't be able to live there. I mean, they're going to have to do some radical, you know, they'd have to really modify the house. You know, would they have to move? And being in healthcare, you know, when you are a quadriplegic and you can't move, you know, there's a lot of other serious, you know, health complications that can set up. And the scary part being is, you know, would our family be able to survive, you know, financially? Because now if we're looking at someone with paralysis, you know, how much of all this hard-earned, you know, my dad was a year away from retirement. He was 64 when this accident happened. You know, that nest egg that they spent this whole time, all these years building up toward, you know, are they going to be able to have something? And so those were big things that my family had to go through. And so as Dad went through rehab, you know, through that summer, he was starting to show some signs that he could use his arms a little bit. He was able to move one of his arms a little bit slightly. He could start wiggling his fingers a little bit, and we took that as a very positive sign. He was on a ventilator, which just meant that he couldn't breathe on his own. He needed to have a tracheostomy, so he had to breathe through a tube in his neck and with the ventilator. And what happened is around July, he started complaining that, you know, I'm having problems swallowing. You know, it's like a burning sensation in my throat. Something's not feeling right. And the doctors went in and they did a biopsy, and they called us in August. It was about August 18th of 2010. And they said that Dad had end-stage esophageal cancer. Now, here we went from, okay, we're having Dad doing everything we can to get him as far as rehab, to get him, you know, where we can get him out of the hospital, maybe get him into a rehab center, see if we can get, you know, more to get him better, to now Dad's dying. I can't tell you, you know, how that just hit our family. I mean, it was just like, you know, we thought that the sucker punch we didn't see coming with him breaking his neck, you know, that wasn't something we expected. And then this here, it was just like, you know, what next? We just all just sat there, and, you know, we had a lot of tears. You know, Dad, you just said, you know, we got to take each day as a gift from God. Let's work together with the time that we have left. And during that time, around when we were starting to head into fall, Dad was given 6 months to live. And then things started happening that started getting me really, really angry and upset. And my mom was starting to get, you know, around that time in the fall, letters from the insurance companies that they were going to stop paying Dad's insurance. He was getting close to where, you know, they're not going to pay anymore. And this is the thing that just drives me absolutely, it just frustrates me to no end. Where we're seeing insurance companies, HMOs. My dad had a great health insurance plan with where he worked. It was a really good health insurance plan. And my mom and dad also knew, you know, they were planning for, you know, they were getting older, what are they going to do, you know, if something were to happen to them medically, you know, so they wound up getting the supplemental insurances. And what happens is that insurance companies, because of Dad's injury, any type of therapies or rehabilitation really drives a lot of the payment and reimbursement. And right now, if you do not make sufficient progress, you know, it limits how much time they're going to keep paying for you. And in some cases, my dad's supplemental and his primary health insurance is, they weren't going to cover for all of his care. And my dad, to make matters worse, my dad couldn't use Medicare because in Medicare guidelines to help them pay, he had to be 65 to access the benefit. He was 64, so he could not use, from all those years, working hard, putting into the Medicare. He couldn't tap into it. So that was another thing that just kind of really frustrated me, and I just felt so bad and helpless for my mom. So during that time, I wound up having, and then hearing about certain deductibles with the insurance industry, where you might have a family plan where you have to meet a certain deductible and then they're going to, then you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. But now they're, and with all this new healthcare laws and rules and regulations changing, they change the policies from one day to the next, and a lot of times, and then they send you things in the mail and then you have to sit and read the fine print. So it was a very frustrating and trying time for me, and I remember going with my mom right at around end of January, beginning of February 2011, going with her to an estate attorney. Because at that time, my dad was in a rehabilitation center, and they said, your insurance is not going to cover their stay anymore. Dad's going to have to go to a nursing home. And nursing homes are expensive as well. And how much expense depends upon the amount of level of care that you need. And obviously, my dad being a quadriplegic, he needed total care. I mean, my dad had to be dependent on everybody, from toileting, being positioned in bed, someone to scratch his nose. This is a guy from someone being totally independent to being totally dependent. And I just remembered being at that estate attorney's office with my mom and just looking at her face, going through this, looking at the, having to structure their assets of what, we didn't know how long Dad was going to remain with us, and, what was going to happen. And I remember going to bed that night, and I was up in a cold sweat. I couldn't sleep. And I kept thinking to myself, what would happen to me, since I was still the only sole income earner in my family, if something happened to me, if I had a catastrophic medical incident, or if I had an accident, or wound up having a major illness, or my husband was in an accident or had a major illness, we'd be wiped out. We would be literally wiped out. And it just hit me with full force that not only me, but for everybody out there, we're one accident or one major illness away from everything we worked so hard for to be completely and utterly wiped out. And I sat back, and like I said, I was just doing dabbling and being, as a hobby for, internet marketing. And I began to realize that there was a major sense of urgency. I began to realize that, guess what? I have to, I want to be able to find a business and create a diversified income streams and have a residual income coming in so that if in the event something happened to me or something happened in my family, we could have medical expenses paid for, or we know that the standard bills in the house would be paid for. And guys, that's my why right here. And that night I made that decision. That was the turning point for me. Okay? I don't want people to go through what I went through. Okay? And having that, and what my family went through. And my dad, he passed away on March 31st, 2011. Almost a year to the day that his accident happened. And another why for my business is I I'm doing this also too as a way to honor my dad's memory. You know, my dad was someone who always believed in serving others. He was he served as an Air Force. He was an Air Force captain. He was the only child, and he volunteered to go to Vietnam because he felt that was in service of his country. He felt that his country needed him. And I remembered toward the end of the last month of his life, Dad kind of revealed what he wanted to have at his funeral, what Bible readings and that he wanted read. And his favorite book in the Bible was the Gospel of St. John and being a light in the world. And based on, with what my dad and what he was, I want to be a light in the world to others too. My dad, like I said, he was also an avid fisherman, and he taught me how to fish. I remember I was always so scared to put a worm on a hook or take the fish off the hook. And up in Minnesota, we have all these great lakes and going for sunnies. And sunfish aren't scary fish, but I just hated holding on to the fish and taking that hook out or putting that night crawler on the hook. And one day, my dad always did it for me for a while till I was about 8 and a half, 9, and he said, "Now I want you to start doing it because one day you're going to catch more fish and you're going to probably do it better than me." And he was right. I wound up being better at him at taking the fish off the hook and getting them on. And so going to the adage, give a man to fish and he'll eat for a day, teach a man to fish and he'll eat for life. And that's what I want to do. I don't want to, I want to give people the skills needed so that if they wanted to make money online, they will never have to worry about providing for their family. Guys, that's my why. I'm sorry if I went on and blathered long on my story, but I really feel that I wanted to share that with you so you know what's possible. And guys, I am so blessed and thankful that I found a home-based business that not only gives me the products to promote, but the tools and the training so that I can build my business faster, smarter, better, and teach people the right way as well. And if you ever want to know more about this business that I'm in, just make sure you just subscribe to my list, and I'll make sure that I get that information to you. Well, I think I've kept you on long enough here, and so I want to give you Doc's prescription. We've come to that. And so what I want you to do is I want you to figure out your why. I want you to write it in a journal. I want you to share your why with others. And that can be getting out of your comfort zone. You may want to record something like this on Screencast-O-Matic. You may want to write it in a blog post. If you really want the courage, put some feedback in below this video. This is going to show up on the YouTube channel, and post your comments. You can post your comments on my blog post when I put it there on the blog post. But I also want you to leave comments and feedback for me. What you liked about it, what could we do better, and ideas for future episodes. Because like I said, I'm here to serve you, and I want to make sure that I'm giving you the right tools and techniques so that you can build a profitable online business. So what I want to do is I'm going to sign off here, and like I said, if you want to get on my list, I put the website address there, which is www.digitalmarketingdoctor.com. I will have the link below this video, so you can click there. And I thank you for your time tonight, guys, and thank you for listening to my story. And stay tuned tomorrow, and I will give you some more tips and tricks on how to build a healthy, profitable online business. Take care. Bye now.